I'm Justin Mott, and welcome to my home in Hanoi, Vietnam. And in this episode of 6 for 1, this is my series where I take 6 images from one photo story and I break down those 6 images and I get into it, why I took those images, what I like about those images, and so forth. So for this episode of 6 for 1, we travel to Kenya, where I photograph Fatu and Najin, the last 2 northern white rhinos left in the entire world. And for this photo story, I focus on the rhinos and I focus on the caretakers and rangers that look after them. So stay tuned to check out this episode. It's very meaningful for me. It's very important to me. This is actually the project that kicked off my personal project, Kindred Guardians. A little background about the story and how I got access to it and how this story came to be. So this is part of my personal project, Kindred Guardians, pilot story for Kindred Guardians. This is the story that really launched this whole entire project. Kindred Guardians, again, for those of you that don't know, is my personal project where I photograph people around the world who dedicate their lives to helping animals. I'm not gonna go deeply into why there's only 2 northern white rhinos left. There's a lot of information on Opajeta's website. There's a lot of information about what they're doing and the BioResue Team is doing to try to save the subspecies. It's a fascinating story. I do encourage all of you to donate if you can. I will put a link in the description box. But if you just want to learn more, go to the website, learn about this, learn about the plight of the northern white rhinos, learn how we got there, learn about what they're trying to do to rescue them. It's such a fascinating story. Just a quick explanation of why the rhinos are in this situation. The rhinos are poached for their horns. They are executed. The horns are severed and they're sold in the black market. They're sold and shipped to Southeast Asia for traditional medicine, for Chinese medicine. There is no proof. There is no scientific proof. There's no evidence that rhino horn does anything. It is made of keratin, which is fingernails and hair, but people believe it does all sorts of things, from curing cancer to another form of Viagra. It's awful. It's an awful industry. The people involved in it are awful. It's a criminal industry. Even the people that consume it are guilty as well. So it is an important story to get out there. I thought it was a great story to lead my project with. So the way this came to be for me is I heard about the story. I heard about when Sudan died, the last male, leaving 2 females behind. That would be the end of this subspecies. Quite a sad story. So I emailed Opajeta, I emailed their communications person. I asked if I could go there. This was such a big story, so I decided I wanted to put aside about 2 weeks to do the story there. So I spent 2 weeks at the conservation. I shadowed Zachariah and Peter. They're 2 of the lead caretakers for Fatu and Najin. I also spent some time with the rangers who protect Fatu and Najin, but they also protect the entire conservation from poachers. I was given access. I booked the dates. I locked it in my calendar. From Hanoi to Kenya and from Nairobi Airport, it's about a 4-hour drive, Opajeta Conservancy. And once I got there, I threw my bags. I was so excited to meet the rhinos. I threw my bags in my room, and I just went right to go visit the rhinos, right to meet Zachariah, right to meet Fatu and Najin, and to meet Peter as well, the caretaker. So it was such a magical moment for me, actually, because the first time I had actually photographed a rhino was a severed horn. I was doing a story a long time ago about the illegal wildlife trade and about the rhino horn trade, and that was many, many years ago for Time magazine, but I had photographed a black market dealer selling rhino horn. And it was just such a powerful and emotional and mixed, a lot of mixed emotions being there and seeing a live rhino for the first time and understanding the situation and understanding why they're in this situation because of people that I had photographed a long time ago. So it was a very powerful and very emotional moment for me. For those of you that are into gear, again, I'll do this little quick bit here. What gear did I use during this shoot? Again, this is very simple. It's not going to be that exciting for you, but I used the Leica M10D here. Again, that's a digital camera without a screen, and for about most of the images you're going to see today, most of them, just about everything. I was new to this camera system at the time, so this was actually the first story I used this setup with, my new Leica system. So this is the Leica M10D, and this is the Leica Sumulux 35 1.4. So this is kind of my go-to kit. So that's it for gear. Put that aside. So I spent 2 weeks with Fatu and Najin, 2 weeks shadowing Peter and Zachariah, the caretakers, and basically I would get up every morning at 4 o'clock. I wanted to be that sunrise every single morning to get that beautiful light. And I just shadowed these guys. I shadowed their work. They get up, they feed the rhinos, they give them carrots. Groups of school children will come in, they'll educate them about Fatu and Najin, they'll educate them about rhinos in general, and they educate them about wildlife and wildlife conservation. So their job is kind of looking after the rhinos, and it's also education at the same time. The reason I want to spend so much time with them is just more days doing this work, more opportunities to get moments like I talked about before, more opportunities to understand the story, more opportunities to understand these guys in particular, more time to understand their relationship with the rhino. So 2 weeks, every single day, same exact thing for me. I just get into a routine. As soon as they get up, as soon as they start, I would tell them, listen, meet me at the gate at sunrise. So I'd get there a little bit before sunrise just to be safe. As soon as they'd open the gate, I'd walk with them. They would just watch the rhinos. They'd wander around. They'd take a lunch break. I would take a lunch break. We'd go back out until sunset. I just stayed with them all day, just waiting for different moments, waiting for opportunities. Let's get back into rhinos and get back into breaking down pictures. For every photo story I work on and every assignment I work on where I'm telling a story with my images, I can really break it down to 6 types of images I'm looking for. Let's start with scene setter. So typically, like I mentioned before, I use a drone for this. I'm trying to get a nice overall to bring you to the country, to bring you to the story. It's sort of like a nice introduction to the location I will be shooting, just to sort of get a feel for where we are, what the story's all about. So, I did take some shots without the drone of Mount Kenya. It's a beautiful backdrop. It just sits behind where the rhinos graze all day. And those were nice, and I liked those shots. And that was a nice scene setter, but when I flew the drone up, I started to get some different stuff. I did have one little funny moment where I was flying the drone, just getting a feel for it. I was actually kind of new to drones at the time. This story I did about a year ago, and I had always directed drones. I never really flown them myself. So this was now me working solo and doing the drone work myself. So I was flying around, just getting a feel for it, and I flew towards a pride of lions, and it was so funny to watch them. I felt bad that I scared them, but they all, as the drone's flying in, I kind of thought they were there. I couldn't tell on my small screen, but when I looked at the footage later on, it was amazing because they were about to attack and then they retreated really quickly. So that was a kind of fun moment with the drone. But for me, I did have the shot ahead of time in my mind. I don't typically like pre-visualize a lot of my shots, but I try to sometimes, but it's not really the way my brain works in photography. I usually just show up, watch, observe, try to get in the right position, anticipate, and then just try to capture moments and then piece together my story. I did have this one shot in mind with the drone. It took me a couple days to get it right with the timing. So I wanted to get a top shot of the 2 rhinos early enough and timed it right. And because the rhinos sometimes stay together and graze, sometimes they separate, so it's kind of tough to time. So I always brought my drone with me. That's a great piece of advice for you guys, just like always be prepared. So I always had my drone in my bag. I have it Pro, so it's just tiny, so I just kind of had that nearby. And I noticed they were grazing next to each other, so flew the drone up quickly. I didn't get too close. I don't want to scare them or anything like that. So flew the drone up, they were right next to each other in this beautiful side shadow. These are little things you notice after time there. Like I noticed these great little shadows, and once you put the drone up, you saw, oh wow, the shadows are actually perfect. It was an exact outline of the rhinos. So the rhinos Fatu and Najin were just right next to each other. Being the last 2, I thought it was such an important shot to have, just this aerial shot looking down with their shadows, just to create this sort of mood. And to get that sort of moody shot and powerful shot and meaningful shot with a drone, it's really difficult. It's very rare for me. Usually I get a drone shot that's sort of like a nice scene setter and has a nice sense of place, but this was like really, really meaningful and really powerful. This is what I strive for, but I don't always get it. It's a great way to start this project off. So the next shot is a detail shot, something I'm always trying to consider on every single shoot. What am I trying to capture? What's the detail here? Is it going to be detail of the caretakers? Is it going to be a detail of the guards that look after them and the rangers? They have these automatic weapons they carry around with them. And I did get a nice shot of the weapons, because it's just so powerful, like to realize like, wow, these guys have to risk their lives. They have to patrol with automatic weapons. It's like necessary. They have these guns with them. So that was one idea for a detail. I got a couple shots like that. But it was one option to get like the guns. Another option was just like the hands, because the guys do pet the rhinos every once in a while. Another option was just getting a tight shot of the rhino horn, because it's so important to show that detail, because that's why they're murdered. That's why these rhinos are slaughtered, for their horn. So I wanted to get a shot of the horn, get a lot of different shots of the horn, and I had Zechariah hold some strands fell off of the rhino horn, because those little strands are what they grind up to drink, and again, doesn't do anything. It's ridiculous. But so I got a shot of the strands, which was nice. I got a shot again of the guns, and then the caretakers, just like their hands and petting the rhinos. That was nice. That was important. I wanted to frame that in a cool way. So when they pet them, I tried to block out, really focus on their skin and things like that. I looked at other ideas, footprints, because again, all these things are like the last. Everything these rhinos do are the last of their existence. It's so powerful and so meaningful, and really so sad. So, their last footsteps of like trying to find these great footprints in the mud and things like that. My favorite one ended up being something that might seem a little cliche, but like a close shot of the eye, because one day it was raining quite heavily, and the rain was hitting his eyes, and it just was creating it almost looked like tears. So that was so powerful. That was again just like a nice moment. Again, that was a little bit of luck, but just being around all day. Like I say in every episode, the harder I work, the luckier I get. So just being around all day and waiting in the rain. My camera's not waterproof, but I covered them a little bit, and I didn't go inside. I didn't quit that day. Just seeing the rain hit the rhinos, and it almost looked like tears around the rhino's eyes. So just a nice little detail shot there. That's why I settled on this. That's why this was my favorite detail shot, because it was so sad, so meaningful, and it really relates to the situation that the rhinos are in. So the next thing I'm looking for is an intimate moment. This is always like one of my most challenging shots, and it's just a matter of taking time. It's a matter of anticipating. It's a matter of like kind of seeing and observing. It's like the rhinos will just sometimes chill. And when they come back, they roam all day and they come back to this area with a lot of hay and they'll rest and they'll nap. And the guys will just sort of hang out with them and pet them behind the ears and they pet them behind the hind legs. They let me do that, which was quite special. The first time I touched a rhino, that was quite amazing feeling for me to just sort of pet their hind legs. These rhinos have grown up in captivity their entire life. It's not normal to get that close to rhinos. Just so you know, just a warning, like it's not a normal thing. It's not normal for people that go there, and it's not normal for, like, don't go up to a wild rhino and think you're gonna pet it. It's not gonna happen. It's very dangerous, not good for you and not good for the animals. I had this moment with Peter. This is probably my favorite intimate moment. Peter was just kind of down on one knee and touching the rhino's horn and then just petting her in her face. And I don't know, it was just really interesting, like the eye contact and it was just such a special moment. So that's why I chose this one for my favorite intimate moment. Because again, moments were few and far between because they do care and they do love them so much, but they're not really interacting a ton with them. And that's on purpose, really. So for the everyday moment shot, you know, those are always tricky because there's one option for the everyday moment to be of the two rhinos. I've got a few of those and those are nice. Those are everyday moments of the rhinos, you know, sipping in the water trough together, the reflection, that's nice because they do kind of everything as a team. Even though there's a third rhino there as well, a southern white rhino, I really tried to frame her out as much as I could. It's still accurate because, you know, there are only two northern white rhinos, but she was funny because she's like security for the two of them. Like, she's the animal security. She would come up and let me know, like, hey, you're getting a little too close. Those everyday moments were there with the rhinos, everyday moments between Peter and Zachariah and Fatu and Najin. They were there, like the fact that they just kind of hang out. It's funny, they'll just sit there and they're sitting on a pile of the rhino feces, just like it's nothing. I mean, but my favorite everyday life shot really came with when I focused a little bit more on Zachariah and his life, not just taking care of the rhinos, but like what he does afterwards. So he spends 21 days on working at the conservation, which is hours away from where his family lives, and then he gets 6 days off where he goes to visit his family. So he spends more time with the rhinos than he does with his own family. In order for people to really care about, you know, Zachariah and to humanize him, I thought, yeah, it's great to have plenty of pictures with him interacting with the rhinos and just being around the rhinos, but I wanted to show another aspect of his life, something personal. So, you know, they all live in this like little campsite and these little huts, and I just wanted, you know, I asked him if it was okay if I photographed him after work, so he let me into his house after work. We were just kind of hanging out, and he was writing to his family, and he has this little hut in there, and I just thought it was interesting, like these little moments. I had one where he's like getting the key out, which is, you know, he's hiding the key in an obvious place, and now I've published where his key is, so you know how to get into his place. And then those were nice shots, but my favorite was kind of just him showing where he lives, showing his little setup there, you know, showing how dedicated he is to his job and how dedicated he is to look after the rhinos. That was quite special to me. So those shots in his home, I typically get those everyday life shots when I'm granted access to get inside people's homes. Again, I do it with permission. I'm not like popping out, like I've said before, like popping out of the bathroom like, haha, I'm getting shot. I've asked them permission, I tell them my motivation, I tell them why, and usually people agree to it if you just ask and explain it properly. That was my favorite everyday life shot because I really felt like it showed you something about Zachariah and it really humanized him and personalized him. So the next shot I'm looking for is a portrait. I took a lot of different portraits. That could be a portrait of the rhinos. I want to call it a portrait. Like I did take some silhouettes of the rhinos. You know, you could consider some of the tight shots I did, portraits of them. And those were interesting. What I really wanted to focus on, I had a lot of rhino shots. I really want to focus on some nice shots of the caretakers. Peter just has this like really cool look to him. He's very interesting face, very intriguing face. It's like really cool like trees, and they were quite like, there's really cool branches, and they were like spiky, and it's almost like reminded me of barbed wire. And so I had this concept when I saw them, like I want to take a nice portrait of Peter just looking dead right at the camera. Like once I saw those and I actually like kind of pricked my hand in them, I was like, oh, that would be good to shoot through. So I took some other portraits of Peter and Zachariah as well. There's some beautiful light and there's a nice green backdrop. And I thought about doing some shots with them and the rhinos, but I had so many nice shots with them and the rhinos. I just wanted something like really personal, a little more like intense, and just not so obvious to have them and the rhinos because I just had so much of that. So I really wanted to capture like their face. I really wanted something close and show the intensity. And so for that, like the light was perfect that day. It was just interesting. So I had that shot in mind for a while, and there was beautiful light. So I just had Peter look like right at the camera. Whatever he wanted to show, whatever he wanted to give me, that's what I captured. So I really liked this shot. I lead with the shot. It ended up being my favorite portrait because of the intensity, and wire really kind of shows that protection. Like I love all that symbolism. That's what I was trying to capture. And I was quite happy with this portrait. It was my favorite one of the entire trip. And so the last thing I'm looking for is something beautiful, like I said before, like that wow shot that if I did need to just lead this story with one picture, this would be the shot, or the shots that are gonna make my book, like I've talked about before, which will only be a few of them. Total story might be 20 to 25 pictures, but for my book, in the end, I might only publish a handful. For this story, I'll probably do even a little bit more because it was just such a great story. And yeah, so my something beautiful is that shot where I'm trying to get a great moment, I'm trying to get beautiful light, I'm trying to get great composition, I'm trying to get everything to come together. Of course, I want that for all my shots. I had this one shot where the Rangers came to talk to the caretakers, and they have these automatic weapons, and I framed one of the Rhinos through the gun of the Rangers while he was talking to one of the caretakers. So that was quite powerful, and that's a very meaningful shot to me. And you know, I go back and forth. I can't really decide. Maybe you guys can tell me which one you like better, because that one's so powerful and it says so much in one shot. But this other shot that I really like ended up being probably my favorite. I still am I go back and forth about it. For now, I will say this one is my favorite shot. But again, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And for that matter, I do actually do this series on my Instagram. If you haven't checked it out, my Instagram is @AskMott, where I do, like, every Monday morning, I do a photo debate where I put two photos that are kind of similar in style. I pick A or B and explain why. And it's usually a great debate. If I like the one that you picked, that means I like the same one, but you don't have to like the same as me. That's not what this is all about. But it's just kind of a fun series I do every Monday on my Instagram account @AskMott. My favorite shot ended up being this shot right here of Zechariah just sort of lying down with one of the Rhinos, just like very intimate. It just shows that connection they have, which is quite powerful to me, like with his full green outfit on and just the connection that they have together. And I just chose this one because I just feel like it was the most powerful. I really, you know, my story was about the Rhinos, but it was also really about Peter and Zechariah. And Zechariah is the head caretaker. He's been looking after the Rhinos the longest, and he just had such a great connection. We became friends as well, and I just really like this moment. It really does show his love he has for the Rhinos and how much he cares for them and their connection that they have. So that's why I chose this for my something beautiful. That's it for my 6 shots. I will add one more bonus shot to the series, and this is something that I'm trying to do a lot more with my photography, and that's why I do a personal project, is to experiment. So I'll call this one something different. This is like where I'm experimenting with something sort of outside the shots that I'm normally looking for, experimenting with my composition, experimenting with my exposures, or just the way I tell stories. For this, I chose this image because it was just something different. I was like playing around with it. I don't normally shoot, like, you know, pan shots or slow shutter shots and things like that, but it's something different. You know, after enough time there, you've gotten certain shots. You believe in that. You will get creative out of boredom. And not that I was bored there, but you do the same thing every day. You take the same shots, then you start to experiment. That's why I like to give myself more time than you might think you need, because you'll get your go-to shots, but then you want to grow into something. Then you want to get that something different. So this shot is my something different, my little bonus one for this episode. And it just happened when Peter and Zechariah were taking the Rhinos back into sort of the holding area that they keep them in after the day where they go grazing in the large field. They come back to a smaller holding area where they can still graze, and it's where they nap, and it's where the caretakers can still keep an eye on them. They're still very close to their camp. I played around with that. I also played around with a couple shots that were like sort of semi out of focus, and pairing those shots with some in focus shots, just, you know, just experimenting, trying different things. I don't know how well these worked, like the sort of semi out of focus ones. I just tried different things, but I landed on this for my something different, the motion shot, because I just like the ghosting effect, and I like the way that it really related to the story and to the plight of the northern white rhinos. That was sort of my something different shot, which I always encourage all of you guys to do on even every assignment, or on every assignment, even on jobs, if you can allow a little bit of time to try something different and put some thought into it. So that's it for my series on Fatu and Najin and the caretakers, Peter and Zechariah, and a special thanks to Old Pajetta Conservancy for letting me spend that time there, and just for all the amazing work they do. Shout out to the BioResue Team. They're trying to save the subspecies. They're an amazing group of people, of conservationists and scientists, and I'll put a link to their work as well and what they're doing to try to save the northern white rhino. I'll leave you with a final photo story, which I will just do in a slideshow form and with some music. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Again, don't forget to check out the links to the BioResue Team, to the Old Pajetta Conservancy, just to see the work that they're doing. Donate if you can. Thank you guys for your time. Watch the slideshow, and I'll stop talking and have a good day. Bye.
rhinos called Najin. She's the mother of the young female, and she's in Alpegeta Conservancy in Kenya. So the main consumers of rhino horn are the people coming from the Far East, like Vietnam, Yemen, and China, of which they believe that they have been using rhino horn as medicine for curing cancers, and also they believe that they use as aphrodisiac, but it's not true. Rhino horn is made of keratin. It's the same material made of our fingernails, so it doesn't contain any medicinal values at all. And we are trying to educate everyone so that we can conserve as many rhinos as we could.